Today on Gamers Couch,
Captain Sonar.
Aye aye, Captain.
Ping.
Ping. Just one ping, Vasily. Weird.
You are wasting that joke in the intro.
It's never a wasted joke. You can always bring it. You can always repeat it.
I am disappointed.
Why that? This is not the last time I have said that sentence. Welcome to Gamers Couch. My name is Sarah. I'm the artist beim Pinselgeschichten, owner of this channel and wife of this lovely dude next to me who's kind of complaining in the beginning, but he's really...
I have the right to complain.
Yeah, I guess it's a human right. His name is Daniel, and he's just as fond of board games as I am, and we play a lot. And we thought, well, we have a really nice collection, so why not share it with world and you to, let us share our very, very, very important opinions on the games and stuff, and just let you see, oh, maybe there's a game that you like and haven't heard before.
So whose world? Or is it the world?
The world.
Oh, that world. Okay.
Earth.
I see.
I kind of feel... And now I'm thinking, did I misspeak again? Because last video I misspoke twice that I remember.
There will be no distinguished fires this time.
And I have a whole cartoon in my head again. No, we won't have fires, I hope, because we're actually underwater. Blah, 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 blah. Underwater today. We're going to talk about Captain Sonar, going as per usual, rules and gameplay first, then we talk about what we liked or not liked, have a tiny little thumb writing going on, and then finish off with funny stories and experiences and a teaser for the next painting that's going to come up next Wednesday on Draw for Initiative. He has to guess the board game that has been painted. But let's start at the beginning. Let's dive into the deeps of Captain Sonar, rules and gameplay.
Yeah.
See what a nice pun I did there, and the wordplay thing. That was good, right? Now I'm silent, like the silent drive.
So this
time, October.
This time it will be a little bit different because we cannot really play this as intended to show you how a turn goes. So you have to trust us a little bit how this works out. The reason being, despite the box saying that this is a game for 2 to 8 seafaring submariners, you really need 6 or 8 people to play this properly. And if that's enough information for you to tune out,
see you next week.
So this is a game that stems 2 teams in a battle against each other. It has 2 modes, although one is more like the training wheels mode and the other one is the real deal, being a real-time game or a turn-based game, and the turn-based version is the kind of training wheels. You want to play this in real time. You have 4 different stations that are ideally manned by 4 different people, and you have to communicate to sink the other team's submarine, because you are fighting somewhere in a not-so-cold war, maybe, and trying to hunt down the enemy submarine and apply 4 damage to them to sink them properly.
How do you not properly sink a ship?
By just applying 3 points of damage.
Oh.
That's the international scale of properly sinking.
Okay.
The 4 stations are the captain functions. Well, I'll skip the function. We have a captain, we have the first mate, we have the engineer, and we have the radio operator. You can play with less than 4 people on a team. Obviously, someone has to do double duty then on those stations, and the game does come with some recommendation how to consolidate that. For example, if you only have 3 people on your team, someone should take over the captain and the first mate. And that actually does make sense once I get into the different stations. The enemy team has the exact same 4 pieces of station sheets in front of them with a slightly different color, namely blue. But both teams are set up in exactly the same way. The thing that is or might be different is these 2 tiles, because they show different maps. There's more than just one map in the game. So you have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo maps. That all give a little bit of a different challenge if you're playing. I'll go into that in a second. So, to those stations. The captain has the easiest jobs of all. He is about to say
coffee.
where to go and to delegate everything else. Well, it's not as simple. But at the start of the game, the captain or both captains decide one point on the map, and you have these dry erase markers, and then you would just mark your starting point, and that's it. Now, in the real-time game, what the captain does, he is effectively saying out loud which direction the submarine should go to. So you would say out loud, head north, or head east, or head south. And yes,
Head home.
it must be loud and clear. Although there is a screen between both teams, and they are pretty big and nice looking. So you have these large screens that get set up in the center of the table to block your view from obviously what the other team is doing. You still have to speak up clear and loudly, because the radio operator of the enemy team must have a chance to listen into what you're doing. Once a captain has given a course, the engineer and the first mate have to. Please.
I'm getting ready to listen on the radio.
You're already listening. So once the captain has said, let's say, head north, the first mate gets to cross off one of these white spaces on the systems. And I'll go into detail what they do. But let's say I, as a captain, said head north, and then the first mate crosses off one of these torpedo things to charge up the torpedo so that we can use it soon enough. And then says, okay, loud and clear, because the captain needs to know that the first mate has done his duty. Obviously, if you're the captain and the first mate in the same person, you don't have to tell them all the time. The engineer also has to cross something up and off the board, depending on where you went. So we had headed north. That means in this box he has to cross off something. That is there to simulate the stress that the submarine is taking while we are on the hunt. So as the engineer, I would cross off, let's say, this icon and then say, okay. And now the captain knows he can give another command. Let's say he says, head north again. Engineer crosses off another of those things, and the first mate decides to cross off one of the systems here. And then the captain can go again. I'll get to the point there quick enough. I just want to highlight something. Everybody says okay, and then the captain says east. And while east, the engineer crosses off that one, and the first mate goes on this one. Now, in a good running ship, the first mate would now tell the captain that the sonar is ready. So that's a system he can use now, and that goes for all these systems that are on here. The engineer, however, with each of these icons crossed up, that means that that particular system cannot be used as long as it is crossed off in one of those sections. Meaning, when he crossed off this red thing here, that prevented the torpedo and the mine from being used. If you cross off the yellow part, you cannot use the silence and scenario systems. And if you're crossing off the green one, you cannot use the drone or the sonar. However, the engineer tries to cross off things to match patterns that are on here. So the thing I did was I crossed off all in that are part of this orange circuit. If you cross off all systems in the same circuit, they get erased again and become usable. So effectively, while the captain is giving the course and trying to steer the ship in a specific direction, the first mate is in charge of, no pun intended, charging up the systems to be used. while the engineer actually incapacitates us by crossing off systems, but he tries to do so in a way that they either self-heal or, again, communication is the key, that he tries not to cross off a system that the captain intends to use soon enough. And as I said, this all happens in real time, so things might get a little bit frantic. But you have to listen closely to what your people are telling you. You also notice that there's 3 symbols down here that are not part of any circuit. You cannot get rid easily out of, if you cross them off, unless you surface. Surface is a kind of special condition, which we'll get to, but let me first go and talk about the radio operator who was...
Yes, I'm listening. You went north twice and east once.
Who was clearly bored.
No, I can listen better when I do something with my hands.
Anyway.
At the same time.
So, just to wrap up the engineer task, if you cross all off on the same circuit, they auto-repair. This is also indicated down here with this thing. If you can also cross off these nuclear engine type symbols, which isn't too bad at first, but if you cross off all of them, the ship takes 1 damage because the stress was too high. It also takes 1 damage if you cross off all the icons in one of these boxes. So if the captain decides to go north 6 times, that would mean that the ship would take 1 damage because the engineer has no way of healing this in any way, shape, or form. Good news is, however, that if you take damage in either of those 2 ways, you clear off all the icons that are on here. So sometimes, if you're feeling very confident, it might be easier to just spend 1 hit point, so to speak. And by the way, the ship has 4, as I said initially, because that's the proper international recognized form of damage to sink a boat properly. That you can clear out the entire thing, and that might be more advantageous than to compromise and steer in the directions you need to trigger one of those repair cycles. Which brings us to the radio operator, who, while being bored, has the kind of most important job on the board.
I'm not bored. I told you.
You're not on board?
I'm on board, but I'm not bored.
The radio operator is in charge of listening to the other team, specifically to the other team's captain. When I said you have to announce the cause loud and clear, it is so that the radio operator of the opposing team can listen in. Now, what the radio operator does is obviously not for our cause, but for the enemy team's cause, to write down somewhere on this clear sheet where they are traveling.
So the other team was traveling. We were north, and they were something like west, north, northwest.
Okay. This transparent sheet is there to help to determine where they are, because we don't know yet where they are, and the radio operator can move this around. It is obviously always in this case, and the longer the route gets, some options are not viable anymore. So it could be that the ship started here and moved through these islands there, trying to be sneaky, but we don't know yet. This obviously comes into place when you try to fire upon the enemy ship, because it helps to know where they are if you want to hit them and apply damage properly.
Vasily?
1 ping.
One
yes.
ping only.
Which brings us now to the kind of last part or last bit of information you need for a successful hunt, and that's the systems. You have 2 offensive systems, 2, let's say, sensor systems, and 2 special systems. The offensive systems are a mine and a torpedo, and all of these work in the same way. With each move you do, the first mate crosses off one of these little icons here, or little boxes, and when all are crossed off, that system is ready and charged up to be used. But the first mate doesn't trigger them, it's still the captain. And when that happens, the captain actually says, stop. And both teams have to stop at that time. and then the captain announces which system to use. Obviously, before doing that, the captain has to make sure with the engineer if that system is actually usable. So if, let's say, the engineer has still one crossed off red thing on here, the captain can neither use the mine nor the torpedo, so that would be unfortunate, and that totally does not happen in the excitement of the moment that you're saying, screaming, stop, and then,
never mind. Go on.
So the way the systems work, you say stop, and then you tell which system you're using. So, for example, if I'm using the mine, that means I can place a mine next to my current position. One thing I haven't told you yet about the navigational part of the submarine life is you cannot go back, or you cannot cross your previous path, meaning the longer you're submerged, the more limited your options are where you can move. You can also, when you place mines, not place mines on your path. So if we're here now, I could not place a mine on J8, the place we just came from. And if I place a mine, I would just denote it by writing down a little M here, so that I know where the mine is. And then the game continues as normal. We would erase this thing here. I could then also, in some other turn, or when I think it's a good moment, when, for example, my radio operator is telling me, hey, the enemy submarine is close to that mine, I could say stop.
I hear the propeller of the other ship.
And then trigger that mine, and it will explode in a similar fashion to the torpedo. So what happens there is it deals 2 points of damage if the enemy submarine is on the exact same spot as the mine, or 1 point of damage if it is on one of those 8 adjacent points to the mine. And obviously, I would then get rid of the mine. A good radio operator, by the way, is at least able to pin down the location of enemy mines by, 2 spaces pretty much, because obviously you know where the submarine came from, so it can't be on that spot, and on the next turn the submarine can also not, or the enemy submarine cannot drive through its own mine. So you're pretty good with at least having a good idea where those mines might be if the operator is doing his job properly.
New favorite word, properly.
Properly. Now, the second system here would be the torpedo, which is similar in effect as the mine. If you have a direct hit, you deal 2 points of damage. In indirect hit, so 1 space next to the impact is 1 point of damage. The torpedo has a range of 4 spaces, and clearly you need to talk to your radio operator first to confirm the exact location of the enemy submarine. And then you say, stop firing
J6,
a torpedo.
J6,
and
J6.
And then hopefully say, well, it's J6. So on our little board, that would mean the enemy would be around here, and that would be 1, 2, 3 spaces away from us, and I can shoot the torpedo there. You can, or you are not, you don't have to fire in a straight line, but it has to be 6 spaces, no diagonals. And if we would hit, that would deal 2 damage. By the way, damage is marked on our first mate's sheet here. That's these 4 spaces, and that's that. Talking about our sensors, we have a drone. If that's charged up, and note that some of these systems take a little bit longer to charge up, so this takes actually 4 moves to charge, and this takes 3. The drone works in a way where you ask the enemy captain, are you in sector? And you see these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are you in sector 5? And the enemy captain has to truthfully say yes or no to that. And that's the drone. Alternatively, you have the sonar, which forces the enemy captain to tell you 2 pieces of information, which could either be the column, the row, or the sector. And one has to be true and one has to be false. By the way, pro tip, if you charge up both and use them close to each other, or this first, and then see if you can find out if the other piece of information is true or wrong with what you got, that's a pretty good combo. The last 2 systems are the silent drive and a scenario system. The silent drive takes a long time to charge up, but is pretty awesome, because if you trigger that, you are allowed to move up to 4 spaces in a straight line without telling the other team in which direction. So you just indicate to your engineer, and he strikes off 1 space for that direction, but you can decide if you want to move 1, 2, 3, or 4, and just note it down on your map, with the other team being none the wiser. So if someone actually found out your position and is pretty good at tracking that, this is the lifeline you can use to, well, disappear again. There's a scenario system, and that depends heavily on which of these maps you're playing. There's one map that has already mines populated on here, and you can trigger one of those mines by spending the scenario system, which we don't actually need for this one, so sometimes it's not in use, making this a way more interesting thing to cross off for the engineer, because you don't use those systems as often as you would think. Now, there's one more thing we need to talk about, and that is, how can you, at some point, if you would just keep on writing down your course, you would probably not be able to move. Maybe you actually maneuvered yourself into a space where you cannot move anymore because you went to something like this, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but you're now here, you cannot drive through the island, you cannot cross your own path, so what do? Well, you then have to say stop, and that you are surfacing. Surfacing means that you have to, repair the ship a little bit, and you get to erase your route that you've taken so far. And unfortunately, the other team keeps playing while you do that. So you say surfacing, then you have to announce to the other team in which sector you are. So I would have to say sector 6. I don't have to point out exactly where in sector 6 we are. And then the happy panic happens. For one, you get to erase your previous route. Everything that remains on here is your current position, and eventually, if you have noted down any mines, which gives you now more opportunity to move again. You also repair all the damage that happened to the submarine, so all of this gets cleared out, but not quite yet, because before all that happens, you have to do something extremely stressful. If you see the schematic of the submarine up here, every player has to draw a line around this part here in real time, and I hope I don't screw it up. Don't let me screw it up. Okay, and then write down the initials and hand the sheet over to the next player. And that happens until the entire submarine has been filled out, at which point you hand it over to the opposing engineer. They have to make sure that none of the black lines, or that the black lines are always in this white surrounding outline that is on here, and that everybody has written down their initials and all of that. Then says, okay, this gets erased, and then the damage gets erased, and you dive again with your submarine, and now you continue playing as you had before by announcing your course and firing and something. As I said, the enemy team still gets to play while that happens, and that is bad in 2 ways. First of all, they know now in which sector you are, and if the radio operator is good, they know exactly where you are and just try to get to you as fast as possible, and there's nothing that keeps them from firing a torpedo at you. And the other thing that is unfortunate is, while you are filling out this thing, maybe the radio operator is a little bit distracted because he has to fill out this, so you might lose track of the enemy submarine if you don't have someone pay attention to that at all times. And that is Captain Sonar. Actually, the individual posts are fairly simple. The systems are also quite easy to grasp. You might have a very quick play to get an idea what each one does and how to use them to your advantage, in which order. that at first maybe it is more useful to figure out where the opponent ship is rather than trying to charge up firing on the opponent ship. And that's pretty much it. Did I miss something?
Age and thingamajig.
So Captain Sonar was made for captains of the age of 14 and up. The box says 2 to 8 players, but to be honest, I can see this working with 2 and maybe 4 players, and actually you might want to go with an even number of players, even if you're at an odd team and have someone sit out. Luckily, the game isn't that long. Actually, it says 45 minutes. But I think we had way quicker games.
We had way quicker ones, yeah.
So this goes.
The first one maybe was 45 minutes, and it might even be with a full team that it. No.
Yeah, it's
more like half an hour.
You're so stressed out after one play that it feels like you've just lost 10 years of your life. But I mean, that's what you kind of ask for if you're playing this game. So I can see this working with 2 or 4 players in the turn-based mode, which is rather similar. It is everybody takes his turn and moves the ship, and then you work it out with the other team. There's some minor rule changes. But I have to say the real-time mode is the thing that you want to play this with. And we played with 6. I think it's best with 8 probably.
Yeah, but we can hop into the next section, likes and dislikes, and you keep talking.
I just wanted to point out, even though the box says 2 to 8, let's say 6
to 8.
It's actually 6 or 8. Maybe, yeah. I don't think it's that terrible doing double duty. Maybe if you have a group of 7, but it's fine if you go into this and are not too ambitious and just see this as a good time of replaying Hunt for Red October or something like that.
Which we've never done.
And or Das Boot.
Never did that. We didn't go to Spain.
Something like that. Giving my best Jürgen Prochnow or Grönemeyer interpretation, and then
that's the coffee machine. Sorry.
To sing the ship. I don't think they'll hear the coffee machine.
I don't know. I get the weirdest noises that I cannot edit out. So I'm just saying this is the coffee machine.
Because while in space no one can hear the coffee machine, underwater everybody can see you fart. So. Likes and dislikes.
The love boat. So, likes and dislikes. This very much reminds me of... I forgot how you... what was the English name for Schiffe versenken? What was it? You said it before we started filming, because I asked you.
Yeah, I said it has the same name as this really, really great movie.
Which I probably have not seen.
Try to adapt this board game.
Tell me.
It's called Battleship.
Battleship. So, this very much reminded me of Battleship, but Battleship on steroids. Because you have a real-time scenario and you have kind of like a timer there that
the other team
that firing at you probably that you kind of not have with Battleship. You can maybe mull over which coordinates you're gonna say next a bit longer than here, but the grid very much reminded me of the olden days when I was young and in school when algebra lessons were super boring. We played Battleship on our notepads in school. Anyway, so I liked that a lot. I do like that you have the added stations of the engineer and the first mate. And I really like that you have to think about, okay, what is the best course, not only with the systems that I might have to cross off as an engineer, what is available, but also with the grid and the islands. So it kind of looks a bit thin maybe when it comes to gameplay, but there is enough in there to have fun with, say for 2 or 3 rounds maybe. I wouldn't play this for 5 hours, but definitely the 1.5 hours that we played was a lot of fun. And I would categorize this as a party game, meaning not when you have super loud surroundings. I don't mean that kind of a party, but maybe you're playing on a birthday or, I don't know, New Year's Eve or something, and you get together with your group.
It's an event type
Exactly.
game. I would say this is similar to something like Cash and Guns.
Yeah, it's very light, but it has, you get the anxiety thing going on. Not as bad as with Space Cadets Dice Duels. That one was horrible for me personally, being super stressed. But you get a good portion of stress here as well, especially when you have to surface.
The physical aspect of Dice Duels is way
and
higher.
Dice rolling. Haha, Wheaton's disease. Guess how long it took me to build a torpedo. But
the comparison, I think, is pretty good because they are very similar games in that regard.
Yeah.
You have two teams in real time trying to fight against each other, although this is a little bit more, just a pinch bit more tactical because you have more predictability for your turns. With the captain giving orders and not having dice and rolling them.
Exactly, and you do not see what the other team is doing. You could see with Dice Duels what other people were doing. So this is more the stealthy one, and you can play it really slow and really decide, where am I gonna go? And the others do like 4 moves or something. You don't have to rush, but sometimes it's really good not to be a sitting duck. And decide rather quickly on the spot, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And I can yell at my engineer and first mate and radio operator if I'm the captain and they do not work well or not as I like them to work. It actually adds to the feeling of the pressure and tension that you have in a submarine when you're in battle. And that is something that I very much like.
While talking about games that this reminds us of, and this was probably showing my age, but this very much reminds me of an old game that came out that was out for the Commodore 64, maybe the Amiga, called Destroyer by Ocean, where you're actually not in a submarine, but a battleship that had a very similar feel. I think the map almost reminds me most of that, but also these different stations, and this is like the board game multiplayer version of that, which is yes.
Don't make yourself look so old. I'm just as old as you are, so don't.
You're still younger than me.
That few weeks. But don't lead them on the, if they want to fire at our submarine, we can lead them to other things that are not, like the disguise and everything.
The lizard people disguise or... something I like about this party games are either... Well, how to say that? It's a very, I think it's quite difficult for these party style games to figure out how to be challenging enough, but being simple in everybody's individual contribution so that everybody can pick up what they have to do quickly. Here, the rush and tension of knowing, okay, we finally found out where they are. Let's move there quickly and charge up all our weapons and do that. So the combination out of not too difficult so that everybody can jump in and get that, but not to sacrifice the excitement and the rush that the game brings once you have an idea what the situation is you're in and how to make the best out of that to win. And that's pretty cool.
Don't get distracted.
I think the radio operator is...
I'm preparing draw for initiative. Don't look.
I see.
Yeah. But would you like to play it every weekend or at every party, or is it other party games that you maybe like a bit more, or I don't know? Just asking because since
if I would be at a party and we had 6 or 8, I'm totally down with playing a round or two with that. But I wouldn't go out of my way to plan each weekend to just play this game. That's
same.
I think.
So shall we rate?
Yeah.
I have Also prepped the DFI. I'm done, so I'm with you again. 1, 2, 3, go. For what it is an awesome game.
Yeah, I think for me that this might be currently one of my favorite party style games. It's difficult because for party games I would also include something like The Resistance or games that are
Cash and Guns,
or Cash and Guns, games
Concept.
that are a little bit slower. But this is a very specific kind of event type party game, and for that frantic everybody shouts at each other has a really fun half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and then you're good for that part. This is great, and the components are really cool. So I like stuff that uses dry erase markers for some reason, but I think these look cool. The screens look really awesome. Even the box looks pretty awesome if it's not glaring in our
low light situation.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So do you want me to have a dry erase board in the kitchen so that we can have either tic-tac-toe games while we wait for dinner to cook, or I don't know, shopping list written on there? Would that actually?
No.
Maybe no. Okay. It was a try. So let's hop into the last section, funny stories and experiences. So we played it 3 times in a row, and we had 6 players. And one very smart thing that he said before, and that he kind of demanded actually before we started playing, is that we do not have certain people in the same team. Meaning, for example, him and I, we have a really... almost primal, intuitive kind of way to be able to communicate with each other. So we shouldn't be in the same team. It would be unfair to the other team. And there's other pairs of people in our gaming group that have the same thing. We're friends forever, and they have kind of like their own way to communicate. And that is really difficult. So when the captain says, and that is J8, it's kind of difficult to for the other radio operator, So...
Well, I mean, you have to be clear in what you're saying.
It was clear to your captain, it was not to the other team.
The core component of this game, despite all the planning and strategy, is the communication with your team. And if you have a team that is working really well with each other, and I mean, you cannot really plan this out to make this fair, but it can be really unfair if you have teams that are like
amazingly good and have shorthands to communicate with each other. And then there's others that maybe just met for the first time, and they're the opposing team. They're probably not as efficient with communicating. So he made sure that we had a good mixture for those 3 games to not play together. So, for example, I couldn't play with him, and I was not allowed to play with Tina. So Tina and him had to be the other team, and they are really good at communicating too. So that was kind of like, okay, that's gonna be challenging.
But you had Christian on your team.
Oh yeah, and I'm really good with the shorthand communication with Christians. Just point. We just point at things that we just like. That. So that's how we communicate, and that was really good. I was the engineer, and he was captain first mate. So I just pointed at what direction he had to go, or at what symbol he might. What does he want? Does he want to focus on yellow or red? So just pointing, not saying much. It was quite silent, so our radio operator could hear the other team really well. And that was a lot of fun. However, we kind of got sacked 3 times. I don't know why. We were really good, but your radio operators were really good at pinpointing us. And we had to make sure that we communicated loudly and clear where we were going, not just north, west, north. We kind of had 2 games where we said, what does the captain say?
but that... And two of the times, I think it was really close.
Yeah.
With one being really funny, where the opposing captain was so keen on hitting us with a torpedo that he risked hitting himself, because I mean.
Yeah, he goes all in. Christian goes all in.
Torpedoes don't judge. So you shot at us when you were one space away from us.
Yeah,
that actually made us win the game. Yes, we took 2 points of damage, but they also took one. And I think you got one from something else. But
we were kind of like traveling parallel on that certain game, so that was a lot of fun. Because we got each other really quickly, and those games were like 20 or 30 minutes only. It wasn't 45, but anyway.
And the thing I haven't shown you yet, you've seen the alpha map. So there's here we have the screen glare, the Bravo map, and
Bravo!
Charlie map, and all they don't seem very very different, but they are, because it makes a huge difference if you have only a lightly populated piece of sea like this here with almost no islands. It gives you way more maneuvering possibilities and makes the radio operator's job way harder to finally pinpoint your location, and that's also interesting. Or this iced up map where if you surface, you take a damage unless you surface in one of those empty spaces, which could also give you a position away. Or this map that comes with a couple of mines already. That's where the scenario system comes into place that you can use. By the way, these have 2 sides. This is the real-time side that we've played with, and the turn-by-turn game has its own little side. I'm pretty sure that's to make things a little bit fairer, because you have way more predictability what the enemy team is doing and can plan for that.
Yeah. So, shall we go into the last little bit of this video, or do you have any wise words to add before we do the teasing?
Surprisingly, while this is a very involved and frantic game, there's not that much to say about it. I mean, it's...
You have to experience it.
It is very easy to pick up, and I think that's great about it. Mm-hmm. And
super quick to learn.
And after the second or third time, you find your first little strategy that you want to prioritize some systems over others and use that, or you want to maybe be laying out some mines more than other things.
And I always hear mimes when you say that.
Yes, say.
Bloop. Lay him out into the sea like a boy or something.
And then if the submarine crashes into that invisible cube and gets destroyed, that's what the mimes do. Deploy the mimes.
Oh, sorry.
So, you want to hint at...
It's time to tease for another board game. The paintings that Tina and I did will be published on Wednesday, 9 a.m. CET on my channel. And this wonderful drawing sketch here is your hint for the game. What do you think we are going to paint? Which board game did we choose?
Atlantis, or Survive, as it is known.
No.
But that has the Kraken.
No.
And little dudes that can be eaten by the Kraken.
No. You have to think about all the things that are on this sketch.
It could be King of Tokyo, if this is a hut in Tokyo, and this could be the kaiju that is still bathing and doing the submarining. No?
It's not King of Tokyo. We also painted that already in season 1.
Obviously, because this is not a house from Asia. This is more a house from the West. So King of New York.
No.
Not helping?
No, not helping. Look at the dude, what he looks like. And yes, there's a house, maybe a big one. There's tentacles.
A house and tentacles. This could be Big Book of Madness. Is this the Academy?
No, we painted that already, but you're getting closer. It's a co-op game too. Oh,
it's a cooperative game. Because the next I would have said Oceanos. the longing view
No.
of this little guy looking out to the sea, hoping to find some treasure. And
No. I mean, his body wear like clothes. It's actually kind of pointing to what universe it should take you. Maybe.
I'm not sure. Is it a cap or are those elven ears that? So he's a Freemason or something like that. Oh no, that's a different cap, right?
But it's kind of like a cult too.
Okay, so this could be Andor.
Maybe.
Specifically Andor, the journey to the north, where they drive around and
Or not. Tina hasn't played Andor, so I cannot paint Andor with her. I first have to play it with her.
well, I think then I'm done. But this time I actually don't know what she's talking about.
I'm gonna be really mad if you don't get it.
It might be, but I mean, there's I don't see any true mansion on here. So
It's just a part of it. This is a small sheet.
There's a very, very clear focus on the sea part of this, which would only be close to one of the many mansions that are part of that.
The one that was maybe excruciating? Maybe?
I see. But I don't think there was a crack in it.
No, but it has tentacles.
But there's...
Monsters and things from the sea.
Okay. I still don't get why he's wearing the hat.
A cultist? No, you don't. It's like a kutte. Like a robe.
Yeah, now you have to explain what the German word Kutte means.
It's a robe.
Robe.
Yeah, not
the rope.
Not the Seil, which would be rope with a P, but with a B, it is a kutte.
It's like Rod Stewart was singing "Sail Away."
Yeah, and now we sail away into the weekend because, it's time for us to leave. We're going to see you next week again. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Do other stuff, liking, sharing, ouch, my shoulder, subscribing if
Sharing
you're new.
your shoulder?
No, don't share my shoulder.
Sure, sharing the ouch of your shoulder.
No, don't. And thank you very much. Have fun. Visit us on other social medias. Take good care. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next week.
Goodbye.
I am sailing in this yellow submarine away now. I gotta pee.
One ping.
Vasily, one ping only. That's the Scottish-Russian perfect accent. It doesn't sound like Russian because it's Scottish-Russian.
Discussion.
Scottish, yes.